Welcome to the Higher Self Habits podcast, where astrology meets behavioral psychology. Join me, your host, Angela Xavier, and together let's dive into all things astrology, how to align your mindset with your birth chart, and so much more. My intention with this podcast is to inspire you with strategies, tools, and teachings that you need to consistently get after your goals with flow and ease. Your higher self is already doing so. And after all, you are what you repeatedly do. I am so happy to have you here with me, so thank you so much for being here. Now let's begin. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Higher Self Habits podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. Hope you're having a lovely and productive day wherever you are. In this episode, I want to talk about the essentials of a manifestation mindset. Now, as I explain these essentials, I'm going to be talking about my personal stories, personal things I've manifested, and what I've learned now looking back and what patterns have appeared. I can now provide things to focus on to manifest them intentionally, because these are all things that I just realized I was doing automatically. And now, knowing the patterns, I want to share with you how you can intentionally use it in whatever way you feel fit. And I have had my fair share of understanding like the mechanics or the theory of manifestation through programs and trainings I've done. But I want everything I provide you, especially on this podcast, to come from a place of actually experiencing it, not just from a knowledge base. I want to know how it works firsthand. And this is all experiences I'm sharing with you today that I didn't even realize I was manifesting until, like I mentioned, after, with now reflecting back on it. And that's honestly one of my favorite things about manifestation, is that you're always doing it whether you're conscious of it or not. You can be worrying like crazy about how you're appearing on Instagram, thinking people will think negatively about you, when in doing so, when worrying about it, that is what is translating in your energy. Through worrying, people feel that energy, and that is what they focus on. You inevitably manifest what you're thinking about. But in this episode, I want to share positive things that I have manifested in my life that I wasn't consciously doing, and the mindset that made it possible. Starting when I was a kid. And as a kid, I was pretty extraordinary. Now, in saying that, it does sound braggy, but my Leo stellium right now is just chiming in and being like, no, but actually. And to be honest, the confidence I had as a kid, like, sadly took a huge hit later in life, and it's something I am embodying and working on having again, which led me down this path of self-development. But anyway, that's all shit for another time. From the ages of 7 to 13, I was heavy into acting. And my mom and dad would get my ass into downtown Toronto from Kawartha Cottage Country, which is where I was born, which is like a 3-hour commute, at least once a week, for auditions, for all the commercials I did. I did an episode on a TV show on the Family Channel, which was really cool. And most importantly, my biggest accomplishment, starring in a feature film. It's called Bailey's Billions. If you want to watch it, check it out. I was a really busy kid. And I had the fancy agent. I was on the same roster as half of the Degrassi stars. Yes, I'm talking about Drake. Like, it's pretty cool looking back at it now. And when it was in the moment, I didn't realize like the magnitude of what I was actually doing. And my first audition, okay, so now I'm gonna get into like what my mindset was as a child. My first audition, I was so tired from the commute. My dad said I wiped the drool off my chin when they called my name to go in, and I got the part. I just innately had this energy, even being conscious for 2 minutes, to just show up and be in the mode that required me to get the part. And looking back now, I know the reason I was able to manifest this acting career was because I was calm and collected, having that mode that showed up very visibly on camera. I had a healthy amount of competitive energy that fed my confidence. And you have to think about it, okay? Like performing, walking into this dark room with all these adults sitting on the same side as a table whose job is literally to microanalyze you is pretty intense. There's a lot of pressure. And I was really good at it, naturally. But at the same time, I was never a brat about it. I was always kind. I had met a lot of friends through acting, but I always had this feeling that I was the best. Like I just knew I was going to get the job when I'd walk into audition waiting rooms. And this energy translates into confidence, right? But I believe confidence is a skill. It's something you get better at by proving to yourself you can do hard things. And this getting better at requires practicing this skill. So truly what I believe at the core of this lesson here, with this confidence I just naturally had, the manifestation mindset I want to talk about with this example is worthiness. Simply being a human, we are innately worthy of what we desire in our life. It is our conditioning that makes us believe otherwise. Looking back the pattern, I know my upbringing and the childhood I had didn't have any of these underlying conditionings that made me not believe I was worthy of having these parts, that allowed me to be kind, allowed me to be magnetic to adults in these types of environments. And it's interesting because as I got older now, looking back, like that conditioning came later, and I can see the dynamic difference in my self-esteem when I reflect. So talking about worthiness, right? When we're born, I like to think of us as a clean slate, innately worthy. You know, like a mother doesn't contemplate if a baby is worthy of its needs, right? So why does that change as we get older? It has to be something we learn and then believe in. So in today's episode, talking about worthiness being a core essential of manifesting what you desire, check in on this mindset as you're setting goals, as you're thinking about what you want, like how it feels in your body when you are focusing on actually having it and whether or not you truly believe you can have it. When does that self-doubt come up? Focus on the negative language that pops up. Look for words like, I can't do that. I wish I had that, or if only that happens, because those are keys. Those are huge red flags to then dive deeper. So get deep. Dismantle this belief that's holding you back from feeling innately worthy, because you are innately worthy. Unveil the truth that you're innately worthy. And how you can do this is to ask yourself a series of questions. So looking at where the self-doubt comes up, this negative language, the I can't, I wish, all those things, zero in on that statement as a belief. Believing that you can't do it. And as someone who believes that, what must you then believe about yourself that you can't do it? What are the reasons why you believe you can't do it? And then ask yourself if that is true, like scientifically proven for everybody on this earth to be a fact, to be a truth. Chances are it's not, right? It's back into this category of things you are learned that are then wired as a belief. So it's about releasing that by becoming aware of what beliefs are ruling your connection with your worthiness, because you being worthy is true. We are innately worthy. So it's just about training yourself to be aware of that and believe that. Another essential for a manifesting mindset that showed up in reflecting on the patterns of my previous experience I just talked about with acting was people. My amazing parents who made it possible in the first place. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. I wouldn't have the access to the opportunity. And the casting director that chose me in my first auditions. There were some commercials that I didn't even have to audition for because the people I was aligned with just made it happen for me. And it's important to keep in mind that every single energy exchange happens in and through people. So when it comes to manifesting what you want intentionally, be resourceful. And in resources, your best resource are people, right? And chances are the answers and the support you need is right in front of you. They are right in front of you. And also remember, you're people too. You're a person too. Energy moves in and through you. So commit to the energy of being you. There is absolutely nothing more powerful in life than who you believe you are. The other manifestation story I want to dive into with you in this episode is by far my favorite thing that I own. And that is my home. Well, the bank does own most of it right now, but you get it. And I can't tell this story without really introducing my husband. We've been together since I was 15 years old. And yes, that's half my life. And truly, it is his Scorpio sun, Taurus moon, Aries rising, and Capricorn stellium of a man that made this happen. That got us this house. And if you know, you know. Our neighborhood is a stunning new development right on the beach. My dream. I don't want to move ever, honestly. I'm so happy here. And before we moved here, it was really important for me to live near water. Growing up in cottage country, like I mentioned, my backyard was the lake. Like in the summer, we would just hop on the boat and leave for a few weeks for our summer vacations. So it was always like a must for me. Again, back to that entitled energy. And I don't want it to sound like a diva vibe, but to be fair, having that must energy, it's worked out because I live on the water. So you could say having this worthiness factor works. Having it as a must. But this story really begins in December 2015 when Cody and I first discovered our neighborhood, which then was just a giant frozen dirt pile. We were thrilled. And we saw the realtor office had posted when they'd be back after the holidays, which honestly felt like waiting for Christmas as a kid all over again. We spent hours researching their options on their website, looking at all of the different floor plans, drove the 30 minutes from where we were living to explore like the surrounding areas. We were like exploring the parks, and it was freezing cold outside just to like be in that area and dream together of what it'll be like when we live there. We were so excited. And the moment we could, we went to that realtor office to go get one. And they were all sold out. Which, looking back now, being older is kind of obvious, but we were so heartbroken. Like, honestly, that really sucked. But a few years later, while we were living in my parents' basement, we saw a townhome in that neighborhood go up for rent. And the rent was a lot. It's a 2,400 square foot, 3-story beautiful home with crystal clear views of the Toronto skyline across the lake from my pillow for $3,000 a month. And on paper, like in 3D land, was it smart? Not really. Were we extremely tight? Yes. But after reviewing everything and looking at numbers, comparing all the things, we literally just looked at each other and said, fuck it. Like, we had that moment where we were just all in. And less than a year later, okay, a house 30 steps from us went up for sale. It has 0 upgrades. The people who used to live here, where I'm living now, were waiting for a condo to be finished building. So they just were here to kind of hold the fort. So they didn't do anything to it, which made it the price so accessible for us. Because I don't know if you know, the housing market in Ontario is ridiculous. It's very challenging to get in. And the place we live in now has beautiful lake views, just not from our pillow anymore. However, I do see the full moon from a vantage point of my pillow, so trade off there. We have space for our beloved gym that we love so much. And we only were able to hop on this very slim opportunity to get into this house because of our vicinity and ability to go check it out. ASAP. Like, it wasn't even on the market for a day before we claimed it. And because we lived so close, and which I'll share in a second, Cody's dad is a realtor, we were able to get in like ASAP, which allowed us to have it. So looking back now, an essential of a manifestation mindset is to take risks. The universe needs to understand how serious you are about getting what you want. And taking your risks proves that. Because think of it, it's supposed to feel like a stretch because you have to create that new space for what you're calling in. And the bigger the reward, the more amazing the things are that you desire, the bigger the space you have to create, the bigger the stretch, the bigger the risk. And it's interesting too, looking back at that time in our lives as we were contemplating our previous rental, if we were going to get it or not. My husband had a powerful mindset that I will never forget, which was very aligned with his big three and Capricorn stellium I just mentioned. His mindset that even though it'd be tight, he viewed it as an investment of his energy. He said being surrounded by this expansive luxury in his home, in his day-to-day, was like a barometer for him to be expansive in his career. For him to see this luxury all the time, he wanted to match it in other areas in his life. And he has since then, which is pretty amazing. And it's really cool to look back on that now. And in this manifestation story of buying our dream home, the other essentials previously mentioned show up here that has allowed us to have the beach house of our dreams. We had love at first sight and innately felt worthy of having it because we just knew we'd figure it out. And I remember when I would be commuting to work, which now where we live was the halfway point of my drive, I would look over at the exit we're living now and say, you're in there somewhere. And connect with the energy of like where we will be in this true, like innately gonna happen energy. Like I know you're in there and I know it's gonna happen and I'm so excited and I love you. Like I literally had this conversation multiple times a week with the house. So that worthiness was another pattern that showed up as an essential of the mindset, right? And also the people. You know, like I mentioned, having a realtor for a father-in-law, as well as a CFO for a mother-in-law, that was a definite plus, as well as their extensive effort and amazing support to make the deal happen. Like I totally see that now. And I don't see that as something to be, you know, ashamed of or something to not mention to people. Because if you have resources, a lot of the time they're right in front of you. So fundamentally, in order to manifest what you desire, focus on these essentials and see how successful you will be. Get to the root of being worthy, practice confidence, look at people as opportunities and support, and take the damn risks. What you desire is not random. It's meant for you. Your higher self already has it. It's just up to you to trust and keep going in your direction. It's already yours. Like what you desire is already yours. So that's all for this episode. If you're enjoying these episodes, please leave a review on whatever platform you stream it on. It means a lot to me and the growth of my new beloved podcast. So with that, keep manifesting your magic and I'll catch you in next week's episode. Bye.